NBA, the Jazz trading Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mitchell coming off his third straight All-Star season, averaging just under 26 points a game. And in return, the Jazz, they get a haul. They get Lauri Markkanen, they get Ochai Agbaji, they get Colin Sexton, they get 3 unprotected first-round picks and 2 pick swaps. Sexton was the 8th pick in the draft once upon a time, member of the all-rookie team. He will sign a 4-year, $72 million fully guaranteed deal as part of a sign-and-trade.
Donovan Mitchell to the Cavaliers changes everything. Donovan Mitchell was now a Cavalier who was involved in a trade which we saw the Cavs essentially go all in. The Cavaliers obviously get Donovan Mitchell, and the Jazz receive Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, 3 unprotected first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps. Now, in hindsight, I can say that no one expected this trade. I mean, the team that was linked to Donovan Mitchell the most was the New York Knicks, and that was where everyone thought Donovan Mitchell was going to end up. And now he's in Cleveland, which is a complete shocker. Now, looking at the trade itself for the Cavs, this is a great trade for them. I mean, if you watched the Cavaliers last season, it was very obvious that they needed someone else to take the burden off of Darius Garland. I mean, a lot of the Cavaliers' offense last year was either Darius Garland creating for others or a pick and roll. And when that didn't work, the Cavaliers' offense would be very stagnant. Evan Mobley is a really good player, but he's just not a consistent second option yet, and neither is Jarrett Allen. And now you're bringing a guy in Donovan Mitchell who's not only a scorer, but his gravity will affect this team in a positive way. Yeah, Darius Garland will still be facilitating the offense, but you won't be able to just shift your defense to him as much anymore, because once again, you have Donovan Mitchell. And in an offense where he's not the main ball handler and facilitator, this will help him out a lot. He doesn't have to be the main playmaker in an offense like how he was in Utah, which didn't work, and now he doesn't have to do that in Cleveland. And I think that Darius Garland is more than willing to take a backseat to Donovan Mitchell. He's willing to be a playmaker and floor spacer for Donovan Mitchell to flourish. And looking at the defensive side of the ball, I think we'll see a lot more effort from Donovan Mitchell. In Utah, he really couldn't play up to his potential defensively. He was always asked to carry so much of the load offensively that he didn't have enough energy to play defense. Donovan Mitchell, when you put a second scorer next to him, isn't that bad of a defender, and he has the physical tools to be a great defender. And that's the situation in Cleveland. He's now paired up with another guy who could take the pressure off of him, and now he doesn't have to expend so much energy on the offensive end, and he could put some of that energy on the defensive end. For this whole situation to work out and for the Cavs to get to where they want to be, I think Donovan Mitchell has to step up defensively, and that'll lead me into the gripes I have with this trade fit-wise. Yeah, I did say that Donovan Mitchell could be a good defender if some of the offensive load is lifted off of him, but will that be enough? I mean, we've seen in recent memory when you have a below average backcourt defensively, it does not work out. I mean, just look at the Portland Trailblazers from 2014 to 2021. Obviously, those two guys had all the talent in the world. Both were great scorers and could play off of each other, but the main problem was that they were bad defensively. I mean, it's not always easy to hide one defensive liability, but when you have another defensive liability, then it makes it even harder. Because if you want to go to the extreme and put your forward on the other team's best guard, and now you have your guards defending forwards, which isn't always ideal. So it creates a lot of matchup problems. And even though Isaac Okoro can be a good defender at times, he's still not good enough to do a good job against the other team's best perimeter scorer. And that's where this team is going to be very weak, which is defending on the perimeter at the point of attack. Now, luckily for this team, they have 2 stout shot blockers in Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, 2 guys who could clean up the mistakes that the perimeter has. But the problems with that is that they won't be down there all the time, especially against a team that has great floor spacing. A lot of teams will bring out your best rim protectors, which will give a lot of space to the scorers. Teams like the 76ers and Bucks would capitalize off this perfectly. So obviously on defense, this team has a big problem. But what about offensively with the fit? I mean, we haven't really seen Donovan Mitchell play off the ball that much. In the times where he is off the ball, most of the time he's just standing still. So he will have to get better at that aspect of his game. Because honestly, I think that this offense will work better with Darius Garland as the main facilitator and Donovan Mitchell playing off the ball, not the other way around. But I do think that Donovan Mitchell has the tools to be a great off-ball scorer. He can knock down a catch-and-shoot 3, and he can put pressure on the defense when he puts the ball on the floor. But once again, he has the tools. But we'll just have to see if he can put those tools to use and become a great off-ball player. And in Utah, the offense was always better when Donovan Mitchell was the main facilitator and not when Mike Conley was. So I think that Donovan Mitchell will definitely have to adjust. But overall, I do think that it is a very good fit for this team. Now, moving on to the Jazz's side of the trade, there is a lot to be desired. I mean, I just don't think that this was the best trade they could have gotten for Donovan Mitchell. I mean, especially with reports that the Knicks actually offered a better package than the Cavaliers. At the start of trade talks, New York actually offered Utah RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, and 3 unprotected draft picks. But the Jazz essentially turned it down, which I don't know why, because that was a way better package than what the Cavaliers had to offer. I mean, in that package, you essentially get an emerging RJ Barrett, who's gotten better every season, and who knows how good he'll be this season. And then you've got Mitchell Robinson, who can play the same role as Rudy Gobert. Maybe not as good, but he can still play the role. And then Obi Toppin is a great development piece for the team as well. And 3 first-round picks for the team is still enough. I mean, at least on one of those picks, you could hit on a young talent that could help your team. So this obviously wasn't the best offer for the Jazz. And not only was it not the best offer, but I don't think that it was a good one either. I mean, yeah, you're getting 5 first-round picks, but you also overpaid Colin Sexton. And yeah, I am a Colin Sexton believer, but I do think that they could have gotten him for a lot cheaper. I mean, $72 million for 4 years is simply too much. And who knows how well he'll recover from that injury he sustained last season. And now looking at Lauri Markkanen, a guy who has potential, has been pretty disappointing so far. And yeah, I know the Jazz are in rebuilding mode, but they could have gotten better assets, better young assets at that. And looking at the roster, I will take it with a grain of salt because they are obviously in rebuild mode. But overall, this was not a good trade for the Jazz. Now, obviously, I do like that they got 5 first-round picks, but I just think that they could have gotten a way better offer. Now, going back to the Cavaliers, how far does this push them? This trade obviously makes that team a lot better. I mean, last season they made the play-in tournament. And yeah, they lost, but they had a hobbled Jared Allen, who was extremely important to their success. And now you add Donovan Mitchell to that team, and they obviously can get a lot better and go a lot further. I mean, looking at the top teams in the East, you've got teams like the Heat, the Celtics, the 76ers, the Bucks, the Nets, and the Hawks. And that leaves them as the 7th seed, and I think they'll be better than the Bulls and the Raptors. Adding Donovan Mitchell to one of the best young cores in the league, who were one of the hottest teams in the league last year, is enough to propel them past those teams. And now moving on to the ceiling and the floor for this team. And my ceiling for this team is the 4th seed. I mean, if everything goes perfectly to plan and everything fits, then this is where I see this team ending up. I mean, I just can't help but think about how good the Cavs were last season. And adding a guy like Donovan Mitchell, it makes that team even stronger. Because now you're looking at 2 guys who can play off of each other and still be very effective. And now you're looking at 2 anchors down low defensively, and they still kept the same depth off the bench. I mean, they still have guys like Kevin Love, Karis LeVert, and Ricky Rubio, which gives this team a lot of flexibility in its lineups. And in an 82-game regular season, that's going to pay off a lot. But let's just say that Donovan Mitchell can't fit in the system. I mean, let's just say he can't play off the ball and that this backcourt defensively fails. My floor for this team would be the 8th seed. Because even with all of those struggles, I don't think that a team below them has enough. The Knicks don't have enough, the Magic aren't there yet, and Charlotte isn't there yet either. So I don't see how this team can fall below the 8th seed. But to end it off, overall, this was a great trade for the Cavaliers and a bad trade for the Jazz. The Jazz got impatient and took one of the worst offers and ended up missing out on a better package. But for the Cavs, this trade is perfect because this is a low risk and high reward trade. So overall for the Cavaliers, I'd give them a B+ for the trade. And overall for the Jazz, I'd give them a D+. And that's how the Donovan Mitchell trade changes everything. Now, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as both of those things help with the algorithm and helps push my channel out to more people. All my social media links will be down below in the description. More videos just like this one on the way soon, and I appreciate all the love and support I've been getting recently, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And as always, I'm out. Peace.